The bearded dragon, the most popular pet reptile. Despite being many people's first lizard, these robust agamids from the interior deserts of Australia have complex needs. Unfortunately, their resilience to extreme conditions has made them susceptible to myths that perpetuate poor husbandry. So we're going down under with ProRep to the land of the bearded dragon to learn more about how these animals live in the wild and how we should be caring for them in captivity. Sydney might seem like an unusual place to start an expedition looking for bearded dragons, but actually it's relatively close to their range. So as soon as you leave the city, you can find eastern bearded dragons, Pogona barbata, and after a few hours, you sort of drive 6 hours west and you start getting into Pogona vitticeps, the central bearded dragon's natural territory. So even though this city is still rich with different reptiles, it's not the ones we're looking for. We've got a long drive ahead of us, and yeah, we'll hopefully find some bearded dragons. So we're just driving west of Sydney, out to a little town called Dubbo. It's about a 6-hour drive actually from Sydney, so it's a fair way. And then we've got a few more hours before we really get into central bearded dragon habitat. But as you can see, it is absolutely chucking it down. There's a bit of a storm going on, and this is well within the range of the eastern bearded dragon, Pogona barbata. So obviously those lizards are getting a lot of rain, and it's reasonably temperate conditions as well. And although I don't think this storm will last well into the central bearded dragon range, you can see the rainfall in Australia, just a few hours away from the desert, can be quite intense, even down here in the sort of southeast of the country. Bearded dragons can be found throughout Australia. There are 6 distinct species, most of which occupy harsh, arid deserts. Undoubtedly, the most popular is Pogona vitticeps, the central bearded dragon, followed by the Rankin's dragon, Pogona henry-lawsoni, which is smaller and found further north. Our journey would also take us through the habitat of the eastern bearded dragon, Pogona barbata. These temperate grasslands are very different to the habitat of the central bearded dragon. Both species also have unique adaptations to their habitat. The central bearded dragon has a broader head shape which gives it a greater bite force to allow it to feed on tougher fibres and herbage. It also has a more pronounced brow which acts as a shield from the intense sun, which is why central bearded dragons tilt their heads to look up. As we passed through the temperate farmlands of New South Wales, the habitat began to change. Interestingly, we eventually reached a stretch of road where the two species almost overlap, and it was time to keep our eyes peeled for Pogona vitticeps. So we're now officially in bearded dragon country. This is just about as far east as the central bearded dragon, Pogona vitticeps, gets. And you can see where the environment is starting to change. There's a lot more of that red kind of sand around. Still plenty of vegetation, plenty of trees, lots of farmland at this particular point, and this road is where they start popping up basically. This video is brought to you by ProRep Life Series Substrates. But our first observation was a spectacular gravid female Pogona barbata. So we've got our first bearded dragon just here. I'm a bit reluctant to jump out the car right now, but it's evidence that we are in bearded dragon country right now. It's a very cool animal and awesome to see these guys in the wild. And here we have a wild bearded dragon, the first one of the trip, a beautiful animal that was basking in the middle of this road. We're just about at the furthest east point of the species' range, and yeah, we're starting to see these dragons in the wild. The habitat here is kind of hard to document because it's because these guys are on the road at this time in the morning. It's about 10 AM, The temperature is already over 30 degrees Celsius. Humidity is about 25%. Just like central bearded dragons on warm spring days, females use the heat of the road early in the morning to maintain optimal temperature for egg development. It isn't easy to sex bearded dragons without handling, but in spring, males have extra bulky tails, which is the result of increased hormones that develop throughout the winter period. These bulky males will utilise the roads for basking. They generally colonise the roads later in the morning and defend their territory in surprisingly hot conditions. We pressed on into the arid regions of central bearded dragon habitat, and after spotting several on the road, it was time to jump out and assess the habitat features. So there's a huge difference between the habitat usage of males and the habitat usage of female bearded dragons. Obviously the males have to be bold and bulky and utilise very high perches like the trees that you see behind me and some of these bits of dead wood to really show off and impress the ladies. Whereas the females are far more cryptic. You know, they need to protect their eggs, they need to pass on the next generation. So they typically inhabit sort of lower levels and have a much more cryptic lifestyle. This is even more prevalent in breeding season, which lasts less than 6 weeks. During this season, male bearded dragons will bob their heads even if no other dragon is present. Whilst beardies do communicate with other lizards with head bobs and waves, it doesn't always mean the lizard is trying to speak with its keeper. One of the primary reasons we conducted this expedition was to learn more about true natural substrates for ProRep's research and development of beardy life. And what we found was quite surprising. So you can see this is the substrate that bearded dragons are living on. Obviously lots of sand, lots of gravel. It's that kind of orange coloration. And interestingly, we've just seen a blue-tongued skink and a bearded dragon within about 5 minutes on this same patch of road, on this same substrate. Some of the analysis of this that Dr. Jonathan Howard actually did found that most of this substrate is something like 95% sand. So even though it is highly compacted, it is predominantly sand, bit of clay, bit of loam, and you know, obviously soil and other kind of components too. But interestingly, yeah, these bearded dragons and blue-tongued skinks actually are, or some bits blue-tongued skinks are living on sand. Lab tests in this area found the composition to be 95.8% quartz sand, 2.2% clay, 1.4% silt and 0.6% gravel. And the oxidized elements within this composition create the iconic red coloration. Of course, root systems from plants, rainfall and various other geological processes will create a myriad of textures in the wild that are difficult to replicate with just plain sand. Substrate with a little extra clay or gravel or other components may be more suitable at this stage. Bearded dragons have 2 main threat responses: quickly retreat to their escape burrow or freeze. Cars are not perceived as a threat by wild dragons, which puts them in a lot of danger on the road. But exiting the vehicle would be enough to usher them to safety, and this led to some interesting observations. So we've just seen a bearded dragon in the middle of the day. The temperatures are insane. The road is almost 60 degrees Celsius, and this guy was just basking in the middle of the road, and he's ran into this little pile here. So we're not going to disturb him. It's obviously the animal's sort of escape burrow, and as the car sort of slowed down, he just scarpered. Now, it's important that bearded dragons in the wild have somewhere where they feel secure, and whether they dig their own burrow or they utilise a pile of dead branches like this, it means that they can be bulky in the middle of the road, basking, get them really high temperatures, and then disappear into safety and security, which is really interesting and something that we might want to start implementing or thinking about with our bearded dragon husbandry in captivity. Escape burrows are generally no more than 30 centimetres deep. They're often dug by the animal, but existing burrows are also sometimes used. This is very different to the brumation burrow, which can be several feet deep. Beardies won't sleep in these burrows in the summer, as predatory mulga snakes search them at night. Instead, they sleep in trees and bushes where a heavy-bodied snake would disturb them enough to give them a chance to escape. This is why bearded dragons often sleep in unusual positions in captivity and don't use artificial hides as much as other lizards. when in fact they may play an important role in helping the animal to feel secure during the day. Bearded dragon diets have been well documented in scientific literature. They occur in such large numbers and are killed by cars so often that it is quite simple to do stomach content analysis on large sample sizes. Multiple scientific papers have corroborated that juvenile bearded dragons eat mostly insects while adults eat mostly vegetation. Juveniles require protein to grow quickly and avoid becoming prey for a whole host of elapids, varanids and marsupials. Adults, on the other hand, spend many months in brumation and have slow metabolisms, allowing them to thrive on a primarily herbivorous diet. Although pregnant females will typically eat more insect protein to ensure extra reserves for her and her future offspring. So bearded dragons do eat predominantly vegetation once they reach adulthood. However, they also eat insects, and the juveniles will absolutely be eating insects. And interestingly, as I walk through this kind of grassland, this scrub, the main insects that we're finding, other than all the flies that are buzzing around my head, are huge locust, sort of grasshoppers and that kind of thing. Now, some research has suggested that bearded dragons eat a lot of termites, especially during summer, and also little beetles and things like that. So this is just an observation, but the locusts that we typically provide in captivity are very similar to what we're seeing out here in the bush. Seasonal changes will certainly play a role in the types of vegetation and insects available to the animals. So variety is key to offering a healthy diet. Even though this is a sandy orange desert, there are lots of flowers here, especially now in springtime, and the bearded dragons will be feeding on these. So adult bearded dragons typically eat upwards of sort of 80–85% vegetation in their diet, and especially now in spring. There are all different kind of wildflowers here. Some of them are quite familiar to me. They look like daisies, dandelions, stuff that we do get at home that makes up a great sort of topper for bearded dragon diets. You can see there is all kinds of vegetation as well, and this is pretty standard across this habitat, and why we're seeing so many different reptiles across this beautiful desert. Keepers should be offering the most diverse range of live foods available to them, as well as a healthy array of natural browse. Growing this at home provides a range of nutritional profiles throughout the plant's growth cycle. We soon discovered that this arid environment was absolutely teeming with life, and it wasn't long before we bumped into another iconic reptile. Beside me here is a bobtail lizard, a really cool species in the Toluca genus, so one of the blue tongues, and these guys, Rugosa asper, actually mates for life. So they are known to be monogamous, or at least exhibit some monogamous behaviours, which means during the spring, which is now, these guys are out looking for females, and they'll follow her around until she's ready to breed. They are amazing animals. The name bobtail and their distinctive bobtail is actually a defence. So if predators go for them, they will typically go for the tail instead of the head. And they are just incredible lizards. Toluca rugosa occurs, the species level occurs across most of Australia, but the different subspecies are all very unique, and this one is just stunning. This is Asper, the bobtail lizard, an incredible, iconic Australian species. During our time in bearded dragon habitat, we recorded temperatures increase and decrease quite steadily, reaching maximum temperatures of around 35 degrees by 2 p.m. Interestingly, surface temperatures were far hotter. We recorded lizards basking on surfaces more than 55 degrees Celsius. This is a simple reminder that bearded dragons thrive in conditions that we as humans would find uncomfortable at best and potentially life-threatening at worst. Judith Badham and Dr. Jonathan Howard recorded the optimal surface body temperature of Pogona vitticeps to be 36.3 degrees Celsius. A recent 2025 study found optimal core temperatures of beardies to be lower, highlighting that ectotherms have warmer surface temperatures. This exemplifies the need for large enclosures with drastic gradients. A basking area of at least 40 degrees that covers the animal's entire body is essential. However, a cool end and a significant temperature drop at night is key to allowing the animal to thermoregulate effectively. Bearded dragons are biphasic baskers, which means that they come out in the morning, like many reptiles actually, they come out in the morning and they'll bask and get their body up to the optimal temperature and then take refuge during the hottest parts of the day, and then later on in the afternoon come back out and warm up again. This obviously allows them to avoid predation, also to avoid kind of temperature extremes, and so they are very in tune with their sort of behaviors in the wild. In captivity, often people don't keep them hot enough, and that means that they are forced to essentially sit underneath their basking lamp for way too long, for all hours of the day, just to try and reach that optimal temperature. And it's an unnatural behavior, frankly. So we should definitely be investigating what temperatures we should be offering. We should be offering big basking spots and very hot temperatures. Here it's already hitting 40 degrees early in the morning. It's a hot, desolate place, but the bearded dragons have evolved for millions of years to occupy this habitat. Infrared or heat is important for allowing effective digestion and preventing impaction. We recorded dragon activity to be later on cooler days and earlier on warm days. This ensures the animals are only exposed during the most important hours of the day and can forage or hide when temperatures become too high. During these times, UVI measured between 5 and 7. However, it would spike up to 11 for a few hours in the middle of the day. On 2 occasions, we found large, stocky dragons basking at around 1:30 p.m. when temperatures were 38 degrees and UVI had reached 9. These extended activity hours only really occur in spring when nights are cool, hormones are high, and dragons need to seize the day. In captivity, excessive basking could be a sign of an overweight or an underheated dragon. In captivity, we should ensure that our UV aligns with the power density and temperature of the basking spot. This means a good quality Zone 3 UV bulb alongside a hot 40 degrees basking spot that covers the entire animal. It's sunset, the night's closing in, and it's time to go road cruising. As the sun went down, we also found a very iconic species that is kept by reptile enthusiasts across the world. So we've just come back from a night's herping. It's a very successful night, seen loads of stuff on the road, but didn't see white tree frogs. And just outside our room, the amazing white tree frog. They're called green tree frogs out here in Australia. And this fella seems to be just waiting for us. You can tell they're very versatile. We're in the middle of bearded dragon habitat and there's frogs sitting on the chair. What are the chances? So the white tree frog is a very hardy species because it occupies such arid regions. So right now the humidity is less than 50%. It's springtime, we've not had any rain today, very dry and very hot, and yet these guys, and there's a bunch of other ones around the sort of hotel as well, are active, they're cooling, and they're utilising the slightly higher humidity at night to come out. They are obviously ideal first frog pets because they are so tolerant to both high temperatures and low humidity, and vice versa as well. And they are just beautiful animals. This guy has assumed the position of sort of resting position to retain a little bit of moisture while he's very exposed, and also it's great camouflage, it looks like a leaf. They are Really, really cool frogs. It may be surprising to find tree frogs in the same region as bearded dragons, but this area receives over 300 millimeters of rain a year and an average of 4 rainy days each month through most of the year. The frogs are restricted to the humid microclimates of gardens, gorges and cavities within bridges, but the area itself is not completely dry. Bearded dragons will absolutely be getting some moisture on the ground when it does rain, and in fact even rivers run through this habitat, so the Murray-Darling is very close, just on the horizon. To assume that bearded dragons only have very dry, desolate, flat environments is ridiculous. The amount of trees that are behind me, you can see they obviously have these high perches. These are excellent vantage points for the males, and they are, you know, it's a 3D environment. There should be height used within the enclosure of a bearded dragon, absolutely. If you provide it, they will use it. So if anyone tells you that Pogona vitticeps, the central bearded dragon, never sees any water, that is a myth. Bearded dragons will drink from water sources and capture water droplets on their head to drink. They're also adept swimmers, but this shouldn't be encouraged. Most dragons will go their entire life without ever needing to swim, so placing one in a bath or a pond only brings unnecessary stress. During our time in beardie habitat, humidity never exceeded 30%, which is typical for spring and summer, although it will rise slightly in autumn and winter. But during this time, most beardies are underground brumating. In captivity, we should provide low humidity year-round. Use misting to simulate occasional rains a few times a month rather than daily. Over the course of 5 days in bearded dragons habitat, we must have seen upwards of 20 dragons. Even in this short space of time, we were able to observe some interesting behaviours, and witnessing a species that is so often pampered in captivity within the wild was a blessing and a curse. Check out this central bearded dragon. He's a huge animal. He's a bit dark at the minute, so it looks like he's probably been through the wars. He's missing a toe, potentially fighting with other males. He's absolutely enormous, just basking in the middle of the road here. Seems to be relatively unbothered by my presence. We've just walked straight up to him. A very cool animal. You can see that he's just the absolute king of the outback here. It's a harsh life in the desert for a bearded dragon, but very cool to see these animals here in the wild. This is one of many that we've now seen on this trip, and just a stunning example of life in the outback. Despite the obvious threats and challenges, wild bearded dragons are still the healthiest examples of the species that we have. From complex parasites that aid digestion to seasonal hormonal shifts that encourage reproduction, things that we keepers may find alarming or even aim to prevent are the key cornerstones of a healthy Pogona vitticeps. Reptile keeping has changed drastically since the introduction of the bearded dragon. We have far more resources to keep species naturally, and by working with brands like ProRep, we hope the extra research and development will improve the welfare of pet reptiles across the globe. For more information on bearded dragons, visit our website, and to keep up to date with our future videos, follow this page.